This is Chaos, Warhammer in the 41st Millennium. This is my Chaos Army, and I'm here to tell you I'm not going to buy any more Warhammer pieces. Games Workshop will keep changing pieces, upgrading their models, giving you new models, new codexes, and look at these codexes. I mean, it just keeps going on and on. So I'm done. If I can't win with what I have here, then I shouldn't be playing it. Now, with that being said, I think I have a good enough army here to meet any new armies or new mixtures any opponents may come up with. And I can be very competitive. And I don't go to major tournaments like across the states, but I go to local tournaments and I do very well. And so what I've done here is I have also, I'm organizing my army to be compartmentalized and efficient. So when I go to play, all I got to do is look at a box and go, that's the army I'm using, and I take it. And I have these armies in all these boxes here. And then I have a iPad here that I have on BattleScribe all my detachments listed out of what they are. I change the detachments only when new codexes come or they change the point cost of each unit, and maybe new stratagems, new relics. I'll do some stuff like that, but other than that, I do not change my detachments. This is what I have. This is what I go to battle with. And it works very well for me. I may go through, few months, several months of not playing Warhammer. I put on my Google Docs drive information about each one of my detachments that I use, so I remember how I'm using them, what I use them with, and what tactics I use them with. And so I just pull up the doc, I'll read that information, familiarize myself with, oh yes, this is what I do with this, and this is what I'm looking for. That is why I call this the 41st Millennium, because I'm using my iPad and all the notes and all the detachments to keep me updated. And then every once in a while I will buy a codex just because there's so much information in them that I really need to study it for a while and decide what's best. Like the last one I bought was the Cult of the Damned, where it really gave some good stuff to my Thousand Sons, so I had to buy the book and go over it and read it and study it. So I may buy codexes from time to time. This is my soupy army section right here. And these detachments are all built, pre-built, pre-made, because I use them pretty much the same way every time. And I can match these together with each other, or attach them to the armies, my other armies I have here. And you got to have this, especially when you go to a tournament and you don't know who you're playing, or you're playing a bunch of different armies. You've got to have a soupy army going. And so this first one right here, it's a spearhead detachment. And I use it often as a specialist detachment from the Vigilus Ablaze book. This it costs you 1 command point, and this spearhead detachment gives me 1 command point, so they cancel each other's out here. But then at times I will use the field commander stratagem, which costs me a command point, which allows me to give my Chaos Lord here, who is in charge of this detachment, the armor bane. Custom to using the Havocs like this, they're very effective. The Havoc squads here have 8 las cannons and 4 bolters. They stay in the back. The Alpha Legion trait is you have to subtract 1 on your hit roll when you target them if you're more than 12 inches away. And then, especially if we're playing armies that have strong, high damage hitting units, it's a waste for them to go after the Havocs. I mean, they got to do it, but you're actually nullifying their great high impact guns this way. making them go after individual soldiers. And then if you put them in terrain, they even get better saves. But as it is, this Chaos Lord allows you to re-roll ones, right? The Chaos Lord's abilities, so they're hitting on threes, re-rolling ones, and then when you give them the Armor Bane, they re-roll wound rolls of one. So now again, you have to be within 6 inches of the Warlord. So I usually put the 2 squads of the 4 las cannons each closer together, and my Chaos Lord can reach both of them within 6 inches. Makes them very, very devastating squad. So this is a Spearhead squad, and it comes in at 524 points. And I always make the Spearhead Detachment, the Havocs here, their mark Slanesh, just for the sole purpose of endless cacophony. That comes in handy so many times, and I can use it on this squad. Also, the Devastation Battery gives a nice stratagem called Punishing Volley, and this is after the opponent, let's say the opponent ends his, you have to use it at the opponent's end of their first turn. So when he goes first, I can pick one unit of my Devastation Battery and it can shoot right after he moves. So I can really put a little damage into what he may have thought was going to be a great assault. So I like that strategy, and really comes in handy. Now the downfall of the Havocs, of course, is you can only pick one unit, so it's only 4 las cannons, and you can only have 5 Havocs in a squad. You can't put more than that, otherwise I'd have 10 Havocs sitting here in one unit, but you can't do that. Anyways, but it's a great unit. Also, another really great stratagem that is special to Alpha Legion units is the forward operative. So after you set up, both sides have deployed, I can take one unit and put it anywhere I want within 9 inches of the other side of the deployment zone. And I usually move the bolters and put them in a good spot. And I use the Spearhead Detachment all the time. And then my next Alpha Legion Spearhead Detachment, it's the same thing. I do the same thing with it. I just made it a little cheaper. So instead of being 524 points, it's 464 points. And it's the same thing what you're looking at here, except now it only has 4 las cannons, 4 auto cannons, and 4 bolters. And it's just cheaper. It fits into some of my armies better. And then as you'll see when I'm talking about my other legions here, I may have to pull out 1 las cannon just to make the points fit right. But basically, I have an Alpha Legion Detachment Heavy and an Alpha Legion Detachment Light, both made up in my Battle Scribe, and all I got to do is go to it, and my troops are there, and everything they do is right there on Battle Scribe. And then go to Google Docs and familiarize myself with what I'm doing with them. The next soupy unit we look at here I call Chaos Corruption, and it is a Supreme Command Detachment. It gives me 1 command point. And this one is with Airmen on a disc, a Demon Prince with wings, and 1 Demon Prince without wings. And you can see the Demon Prince without wings, it's a proxy unit. The local tournaments I play in, and I think even big sponsored tournaments, allow you to use proxy units as long as you tell that they're different than another unit. They can't look the same and then go, oh, by the way, this guy's really this. They have to look different. So anyways, with this Supreme Command Detachment, it's been nerfed with the points, but you know, it's very effective. I mean, these 3 units gives me 7 spells to cast, which is big time. If each one of these are putting a smite on somebody, and then I give them the Cult of the Legion, Cult of Magic, and which is great, man. The everybody but Airmen, the 2 Demon Prince, will get Astral Blast. This thing is crazy. You get the smites, and then you get to do this Astral Blast, and you can look it up. It's very, very good. I make the Demon Prince in this unit the Warlord, And with the Warlord, he gets the trait, which if he succeeds in manifesting a psychic power, he will add one extra mortal wound to the enemy. So this one really is putting the hurt on opponents with all spells. And remember, against the Tau, this is very effective, because with all their shield drones, which can take the hits from their units, they can't do it against psychic powers. So it's very effective. Also, with the Cult of Magic, you get the Arcane Focus, and you get to add one to your psychic test. So the Demon Prince is beefed up as good as Aramin now. So Aramin, he'll do the Smite, and I give him Doombolt, which is also an attack. So you can really do a lot of damage. And then I really love Death Hex for Aramin, to take an invulnerable saves away from an opponent. And then Diabolical Strength I like to add to the Demon Prince with Wings, because when the Demon Prince with Wings charges, he gets the Hateful Assault rule, which, you know, is a pretty much a chaos-wide rule that if your unit charges or gets charged or does a heroic intervention, you get a +1 to your attack, which is very helpful. So the Demon Prince here is very strong, and then with Aramin giving him the Diabolical Strength, he can really put on. And then of course I always give him Malefic Talents, just the way he looks here, which adds 3 more attacks. So he's coming in. My Demon Princes will always attack anywhere from 8 to 10 attack on somebody. And if he has the Diabolical Strength, or I use a stratagem to add a extra strength point to him, he's up there in a pretty high range to really do some damage. And then the Demon Prince without wings, he just pretty much supports the other Demon Prince. It's not as bad as you think not to have the wings. He just stays more behind, and he'll get into hand-to-hand himself as the enemy closes in on him. Because I try to keep my units pretty well protected from being shot at until I engage with them. I really like this detachment with the Cult of Magic on him. The Supreme Command Detachment comes in at 517 points. Another soupy detachment, when you're allowed to use Lord of Wars, is my Super Heavy Detachment. Now this gives you 3 command points, and I always load out the Knight. It's a Knight Despoiler with the Rapid Fire Battle Cannon and the Heavy Stubber. I replaced the Reaper Chainsword, and then he gets the Thunderstrike Gauntlet. So I'm not afraid to shoot and march right into hand-to-hand combat with him. The tournament I just got through playing with, he has been killed 1 time on turn number 5. The other times he has survived the battles and even getting in hand-to-hand. And that's even with playing an Imperial Guard who was using one of those Blaine Bades, and 3 other cannons, tanks with all their cannons shooting at him. Because one thing you like to do with the Knight Despoiler is to improve his invulnerable save from a 5 to a 4 using a stratagem. So I always do that. Costs 1 command point, which, being a 4 invul save really helps him out a lot. And then with him, I always make him the Iconoclast household. I never go with the Infernal one. I mean, to me, rolling to give yourself a possible D3 mortal wounds just to get some special things to help you is just not worth it at all. There's too many times where I am in a battle with this knight, and it comes down to having a few lives left. So I will never do that. It's always Iconoclast household. I always pay a command point, and I give him the gauntlet, a relic of some kind. I give him a relic, and I like to use the Gauntlet of Accession when I feel like I'm getting in hand-to-hand with other Titanic units or knights. Otherwise, I go with the Ruins of Arlok, something like that, where I get an extra pack. Of course, you have to take an extra damnation, but you can pick them, and you get an invulnerable save of a 5+, not only with ranged units, but with melee also. So I do that one a lot. if I think I'm really going to get into some heavy hand-to-hand. But I always make them dread blade, and I give them, I always pick the pack, and the pack I always pick, or not always, but I have a couple, which Knower of Profane Secrets, which I like the best. It adds one to your model's leadership, because remember, you have to roll for these packs every turn, and you have to roll less than your leadership. So adding one gives them a 10, which is great. And then I get one command point back at the beginning of the game before you start automatically. So, and I'm usually using 2 command points with this knight. One to get the artifact, and one you can spend a stratagem at the beginning of the game and pick a stratagem for the Icono household ambition, and that stratagem will stay with your knight the entire game. So I'm usually using 2 like that. Now for the damnations is I always take Forsaken, because that one you get the -1 off your dice when you're rolling for your damnation. So it's really great. And then I have to take another one, and it's usually Warp Fugue, which means I always fight last in the fight phase, even if I've charged. So again, how many times am I really going to be in hand-to-hand? And really, if I'm minusing 1 off my pact roll, I'm adding 1 for my leadership, I have to get a 12 for for the damnations to take effect. So I really like it. So my Knight Despoiler comes in with the Heavy Stubber, the Iron Storm Missile Pod, and a Rapid Fire Battle Cannon, and the Thunderstrike Weapon and Titanic Feet. And then I always put the 2 War Dogs with them. I really don't use this Knight without the War Dogs, because everybody will focus their fire on the Knight, but the War Dogs are very, very effective on their own right. With the 2 heavy stubbers, the 2 heavy, the 2 War Dog autocannons rolling 2 D3s each one. That's 4 D3s every time a War Dog shoots. And on average, you're always getting 7 to 8 attacks with a strength of a 7. So, and that's why I picked the Rapid Fire Battle Cannon on the Lord of War Knight, because it's a strength 8. So, and that'll cover anything in the battlefield pretty much, that we play with. We don't play with any other units that are out of the 40,000 K realm. So very, very effective when I put these guys in. They do a great job for me. And this unit will come in at 744 points. So the tournament I was in, I used the Supreme Command Tzeentch, I used the Lord of War here, and then the next one I'm going to show you, I used the Plague Bearers. And that's all I use. And I'm going up against armies that had 100 men. Most of them had more than I did, but man, the Plague Bearers that I'm going to show you are really, really great. Now, this detachment is a battalion. It's called the Chaos Plague, is what I call it. And of course, I'm getting 5 command points just with this one. And this one can be used just the way it is, like this. I use Sloppity Bilepiper and Spoilpox Scrivener. I use 3 units of Nurlings, 20 Plague Bearers with the Demonic Icon and an Instrument of Chaos, and then 10 Plague Bearers with the Demonic Icon. And these Plague Bearers are very, very durable on the battlefield. As you probably know, the Cloud of Flies to start with the 20 more units, and then Disgustingly Resilient, as every Death Guard Nurgle unit has here. And they can move up the field quick, being with their commanders, Spoilpox, and with their commander Bilepiper, they get to roll 2 dice when they take a morale check, and they get to pick the lowest. So your chances of getting 1 are even better, and then keeping the units coming back. So very effective. During the tournament when I had this, remember I was using the Tzeentch, the Lord of War, and this battalion. I never lost my 20-man squad of plague bearers until the last game. And then when you do lose them, and guess who I lost my last game to? The Grey Knights. And you have demonic incursion, and that is when a unit is destroyed, my demon units, by a Grey Knight unit, the destroyed unit is returned to your army at full strength. So, and you can set it up on the battlefield at the end of your next movement, anywhere you want, within 9 inches. So, that's the only game I lost in the tournament, and then me and him are now going to play a championship game. We are in the finals. So, very great stratagem to use with the plague bearers. And I just run the plague bearers out. I keep my demon princes protected with them. I go after objectives. Very nice unit to have as a soupy detachment to put in any army that you want to use. And the nerdlings, of course, are like infiltrators, and they can set up in forward positions, get ready to take objectives. And for these 30 men and their 2 commanders, the price is 489 points. Now my next one here is, I think everybody knows, the bomb. I equip it with a Bloodthirster. I usually use a Bloodthirster of Infinite Rage or Bloodthirster of Wrath, and I have 25 blood letters with a demonic icon. Now I do not put an instrument with this most of the time, even though you'll see one guy here with an instrument, because the instrument is not really needed when you drop blood letters with the Dissidents of the Warp. You get to remove them off the board. It costs me 2 command points because I use 25 of them. And then they can drop in, like any other unit can drop. And then the Bloodthirster is on the board to help support them, keep them strong. Before the game begins, you spend 1 command point for the Banner of Blood on them. And that one upgrades the demonic icon to the Banner of Blood. And then you can also use the Banner of Blood to, when you charge, you get 3 D6 instead of 2. So this unit is going to most likely succeed in its charges with that 3d6 being within 9 inches, and then you drop him where the Bloodthirster is, because he's a Khorne character, so he gets the Locus of Rage ability, and you can re-roll the charges. So the blood letters are pretty much in. The blood letters will also have unstoppable ferocity, which if they charge or get charged, they can add 1 to their attack. That means every blood letter now is not only a 1 attack, it's a 2 attack. And then of course rolling a 6 when you go to wound, it gives extra damage. So the blood letters can really do a number. I dropped the blood letters one time on a custodial, I don't know what you call the guy, it was a Dread Knight type of thing, or Hell Knight, and I think he had 14 wounds maybe, and I put 13 on him. But I did use the stratagem of attacking a second time with the blood letters. So that's a great stratagem to use. I think it's called Khorne's Fury or something, but it's really good. So this is another soupy detachment I like, and this comes in at 400 points. My last soup detachment is a super heavy auxiliary. It's 479 points. It's pretty self-explanatory. I always keep them equipped with the same type of weapons. It's a Gore Store Cannon, Hades Gatling Cannon, the Great Cleaver of Khorne, and that's it. I usually use him to complement my Khorne Berserkers, which is a really nice complement to take a lot of heat off the Khorne Berserkers and allow them to get into battle, because this guy will charge too. He doesn't sit back, he's up there charging, because he can fall back and shoot just like the other Lord of Wars. So this is my soupy detachments that I use. It's the only ones I use, and believe me, it's the only ones you're going to need. The Havocs I use all the time. Then I use the Supreme Command, Tzeentch ones once in a while, the Lord of Wars. I use the Bomb, and the plague bearers once in a while, but usually I use the havocs all the time. Anyways, that's it. Coming up in my next video, I will show you my Alpha Legion detachment. Now remember, each one of these detachments that I showed you, the soupy ones, they go in their own box. So if I go, oh, I'm using this army, but I want to use this detachment, I just grab that box and I'm out the door.